BHEKI, my brother, good afternoon to you. How are you?
No, good afternoon, my brother. Thank you so much for having me. We are very
Thank you.
excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I mean, let's start first and foremost with your organization. I mean, just give us a sense of the history of your organization.
Yes, I'm the founder and the president of the Township Economic Commission SA, which is TECSA. We've got two registered organizations as NPCs. NPC is a non-profit company. One is the Township Economic Commission, which is a commission that is focusing mainly on policy alignment, making sure that we monitor, advocate, and also do the oversight when it comes to policy, making sure that the policy works for the small businesses, which we now call them micro, small, medium enterprise. It's MSMEs. Now, one of the achievement when it comes to that was the Township Economic Development Act, which was gazetted and passed into law on the 29th of April, 2022, and in which we currently it's on review. Then we're just working on that, but we're saying even if it's on review, let's see what's happening. That's the first part.
Yeah.
Then the second part, we've got also TECSA Foundation, which is now the implementing agency of TECSA, of the township and rural economy, where we're doing special events, developmental projects, and empowerment programs. We do all those things.
Yeah.
But what is TECSA? What is our mandate? Both the commission and the foundation. Our mandate is very simple. It's to transform, develop, grow, and protect township economy. Four things.
Yeah.
Transforming, developing, and
Yeah.
protect township economy. But lastly, what is our objective?
Yeah.
Our objective is to build the townships we want, the villages we want, the rural areas we want,
Yeah.
the townships where people can live,
Yeah.
learn, work, and play. Basically, that's who we are.
Absolutely. It sounds very interesting, but I want us to go back because as a youngster who grew up in Soweto, there are stories of business people, self-made business people who did amazing work in terms of developing their own business. But when you dig deeper, you'd realize that some of them were barely scratching the surface, even though their names were all over the place. One, because they did not own the entirety of the business in the main. So the buildings that they operated in belonged to the government through council. The restrictions that were imposed on them also meant that from a value chain point of view, they were largely dependent on white business. And when those people died, they died with the legacy of the same business that they tried to own without really mentioning names. So sometimes when I look back at some of those big names, I tend to wonder as to whether they were as big as they were made out to be, at least most of them. And when you say you want to nurture, develop, advance, and all of that, some of us are asking simple questions. To what extent? What is it really that you are nurturing? I'll give you a simple example of PEP stores. From what I read, I mean, PEP stores was made by the townships. They targeted railway stations, and then they realized that there is a business. They took it into the CBD, but the people that build PEP stores are black people because those are the peoples that they bought. But it started off from a supermarket. It was a few supermarkets from what I read. And I'm thinking, what have we built today that is born and bred out of the townships anywhere in the country? Just take me out of my misery in terms of that aspect.
No, that's a very interesting question and the input, Tabiso. Let's go back.
Yeah.
During, before even 1994.
Yeah.
Before even the malls came to the township.
Yes.
I'll make some few examples, right? Let's talk about the black chain.
Yeah.
if you remember the black
Yeah,
chain.
no, I remember Black Chain.
Yeah, the black chain was a collaboration or a conglomerate
Yeah,
of different families
yeah,
that were leading businesses in the
Yeah.
township, right? They came together. They decided to form the black chain.
yeah,
But what happened to black chain? We then needed to look at what happened to black chain so that we then start, learning from those mistakes
yeah,
and also making sure that we don't repeat those.
yeah,
I'll make the first point, I'll make an example with black chain,
yeah.
but I'll also make an example with the blue flame.
Yes.
Because after the black chain, there was a blue flame
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
But there's the number of them, you understand, not just in Soweto, but also in other places. Now, this is what happens. It started by coming up with organizations that claimed to represent businesses in the township.
Yeah.
Yet they were not representing businesses in the township. They were representing their own, interest, right? Now you find a situation and start to understand what happened to black chain. I had an opportunity to sit with Dade Maponya when he was, he called me to congratulate me for winning the Community Build of the Year awards in 1993.
Yeah.
And then the meeting was supposed to be just 10, 15 minutes, but I ended up spending an hour, 30 minutes with him, in his office.
Wonderful.
Because he's one of the mentors that, we were looking forward, But I had a very good relationship with him. And then he explained a lot of things that happened, to say for them to make decisions was not easy.
Yeah.
Right? And also for them to then run this black chain in a proper, professional way was also a challenge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mention some of the things that he shared with me,
Yeah.
but it showed to me that there was a lack of skills, in terms of how to run a retail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there were clash of ideas.
Yeah.
Then that is why the black chain formed. And then one of the things that he said to me, they were approached by Raymond Ackerman,
Yeah.
who wanted to bring Pick and Pays in Soweto,
Yeah.
but he wanted to work with them and making sure that they become part and all that. But that didn't work out. It fell off.
Yeah.
Because the idea was they will own 51% of Pick and Pay, and then Raymond maybe will own about 49%. But I think that discussion never, took off.
Yeah.
But today, Pick and Pay is 100% in the township without us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now the black chain fall off. Then came the second one, which was the Blue Flame,
Yeah.
which was established by leaders like Bo Prakeni.
Yeah.
But what happened to the Blue Flame, I wouldn't have, because I've never zoomed in what happened to the Blue Flame. But what I'm saying, those were attempts
Yeah.
that were there that failed. The recent one that we can talk about is the African Bank,
Yeah. Absolutely.
which was started by
Motswenyane and others.
Motswenyane and all that. Yeah. But where is African Bank
Yeah,
today?
it's majority owned by the Reserve Bank and other banks, by
Yeah,
the way, which
yeah.
is an irony.
Yeah. But what we managed to push back, that I can be proud and say, at least this is what we've managed to, hold into.
Yeah.
When we started township economy in 1990, it was not fashionable.
Yeah.
People, they were asking me, Bob TWALA, what is township economy? Because I took that from Dade Maponya and all that,
Yeah.
to say, let's highlight it as the township economy.
Yeah. But you see, that's where my issue comes in.
Yes.
And I'm speaking here as a youngster
Yes.
with an analytical view, because I have a sense of what this township economy is. Now, you've spoken about black chain, right, which is retail, right? And then, of course, you will still have the Maponyas, which are no longer Maponyas in so many ways. I mean, where Maponya shop is what now? Checkers, I think, ShopRite or something like that, right?
But they still own the property.
No, but it's ShopRite,
Yes.
right? Which is a different IP in terms of them. You look at the Shabalalas of the time. I mean, as a youngster, I used to go watch movies there, right? I don't know what it is now, but I know that it's a conglomerate of young black business people. But that Chabalala brand is something else now. It took a different turn, right, from what it was. And then you look at the taxi industry, for instance, and I want to talk about Soweto because that's where I grew up in. You look at how people who are owning taxis are trying to branch out somewhere because the margins are terrible, as they say, right? And these are people who are not part of the value chain, right? In terms of the parts, in terms of the production of the vehicles and all of that, right? These are people that were supposed to be in the value chain of the rapid bus system. And they are not part of the value chain. These are people who still, even today, struggle with permits. Simple thing, permits. They still fight over permits. They should. Then you've got football, right? Soccer clubs, Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, Morocco Swallows is out of the way, right? And you try and look at where these big clubs are rooted. You try and look at the value chain, do they produce the T-shirts? Do they produce the soccer ball? Do they, or are these people that are solely reliant on what these big companies are providing them with in terms of sponsorship and all of that? Don't I have a right to question the roots of this township economy in terms of its existence and the scale at which it really exists?
No, you do. And also you're 100% right. Because remember, as TECSA, I always say to people, we can't talk township economy if we just talk about township economy from the high level.
Yeah.
We need to dive deep in terms of what happened, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Because and also correct the roots of the whole thing. I'm happy because I'm sitting with you here today to unpack that.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
To say, look, the issue that where we've missed the point was saying, let's not focus on the operation of the business, but let's focus on the full value chain of the business.
Yeah.
Because the money is not on the operation. The money is in the value chain.
Yeah.
As I often say, we need, of which I think, so that you understand it, I want us to unpack the difference between the market and the economy.
Ownership.
You understand?
Yeah.
You will talk about ownership.
Yeah.
To say, when you look at Soweto, South Africa, we are called the market, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Because of the buying power.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, we are the market. Then from there, there's value chains. After the market, there's value chains that we need to look at. Then the value chains then build the industries. And then the industries build the sectors. Then the sectors build the economy. Is the economy, the sectors, the industries, the value chain, and the market. Now, the biggest mistake, we've jumped the value chain. Then we jump into the industry. Then focusing on the industry, and then focusing now on the sector. That's where the mistake, happened. Because at the end of the day, I always say, if we talk township economy and we don't produce what we consume, then we're doomed. But at the end of the day is exactly to your point, to say, when you look at the issue of your example of the taxi industry, we were supposed to say, look, the operation is the last part. But the first part is, how do we, make sure that, remember, if I can also remind you, remember Jomo Sono used to have the first, franchise on the tire and all that he opened as one of the franchise.
Yes.
To say the spares and all that.
Yes.
To say, how do we then make sure that we have our own workshops that are owned by the taxi, industry or the taxi association?
Yeah.
So that if your taxi gets too stuck or had a problem, you get even the tow car that will take the car to the workshop and then get fixed.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, what happens is that when you talk about that value chain, the issue of the tires, the spares, the mechanic and all that, and owned by the industry.
Yeah.
Right? So that at the end of the day, you control the value chain. I'll make an example so that we understand where we're going. You look at the trend that is happening recently of the conglomerates.
Yeah.
I'll make an example with Bidvest, Bosevest, Botovest. These are group of companies that come together to manipulate these industries and the markets. So that when you look at Bidvest, they're all over the place. When you look at Severs, they're all over the place. That's exactly that, to say, look, they wanted to make sure that they monopolize the industries. Now, that's where we failed. Yeah. Meaning, that's exactly how we failed it. But at the end of the day, currently, you look at your industrial parks in the townships. What are we producing in those industrial parks? Nothing.
Yeah. So let's go further up, because I want to still come back on this, and I'm asking these questions because I want to understand.
Yes.
It. And then we were then at some point seemingly left with the prospect of very small businesses in the townships, Samagwinya, hair salons, clothes, sewing clothes for these young boys who have the ambition of being designers, and right? Spaza shops. I don't know if it was you during my radio shop who reminded me about the meaning of his spaza.
Yeah, that was me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was taken over by complete strangers. Chaps who came from Somalia, Bangladesh, who now run them to a point where if you were to open a spaza shop, they'll come knocking on your door to say, what are you doing? You can't be selling. This is our territory. And that creates a conflict and all of that. They're selling products. We don't know where they're produced, where they come from. We know they're not paying tax and all of that, right? Now, the question then becomes, then what are we left with in the townships? That speaks to an economy, the township economy that we are running.
Can I tell you what we left with?
Yeah.
Us. We left with us as the economy.
That's it.
Yeah. We left with us as the people.
Yeah.
That simply means, my brother, whatever mistake that happened, we can still correct it. But you will never get people to perish.
Yeah. So do you accept that we are not running anything?
No, we're not running anything. No, 100%. No, that I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're not running anything.
Yeah.
But we are now saying we are now resetting.
Yeah.
When we talk about resetting, it starts with the mindset. That's where it needs to start.
Yeah.
We need to then start saying, but truly speaking, who are we?
Yeah.
Are we the people that understand business?
Yeah.
And the whole ecosystem?
Yeah.
Because what we lack, my brother, is the understanding of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
A person will say, I want to start a business without even researching whether that business can survive. Let me just, so that we align, give you how this thing works. There's a difference between a business person and an entrepreneur. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
A huge difference. A business person is a person that started business solely to make money.
Yeah. Profit.
Open the door. Clients come in, do cash sales, close, and go home.
Yeah.
Do the same thing tomorrow and the other day. He or she doesn't really have an interest in terms of what's happening outside the business. Meaning he can't engage with the like-minded people, he can't engage with the challenges and all that, and challenges from that particular sector or industry that he or she is.
Yeah.
But an entrepreneur is somebody that look at the challenges that the community has.
Yeah.
And want to come up with a solution, solve problems, but at the end of the day, with the aim of also making money.
Yeah.
Meaning the main idea of an entrepreneur, it's not making money first, but it's coming up with the solution to the problem first, and later make money. Yeah. That is why those are the people who will be interested now in what is happening in the market itself, what is happening in the economy itself, what is happening in the industry that they're in, and try to build it up. Now, basically what I'm saying, just to answer you, to say, where do we need to start? We need to start from the basics. Let's start with the mindset
Yeah.
and understanding the challenges that we're facing,
Yeah.
and be honest to ourselves.
Yeah.
To say, let's rather come up with solution. But can I tell you what's our stumbling block?
Yeah.
It's politics. Because now the politics come, because remember, I'll make a simple example with Spaza Shop. Now, there was an issue of registering Spaza Shop after what happened with those
Yeah.
kids that died,
Yeah.
mainly in Naledi and the rest of the country, where they ate Spaza Shop. May their soul rest in
Yeah.
peace. Then our government became reactive, because that's what happened. Our government and our leaders are not proactive.
Yeah.
They rather, reactive.
Yeah.
Now, what happened is that government said, let's register Spaza shops, right? And then, but up until today,
Yeah.
Spaza shops are not registered, but they're still operating. But now, it's now politics that came into the space of business,
Yeah.
where business were not engaged properly
No,
to
absolutely.
say what are the solutions. When you say register Spaza shop,
Yeah.
before we say register Spaza shop, what are the challenges on the ground,
no,
so that
absolutely.
we come up with the solution?
I always argue that I cannot make decisions about business if I've not run a business. So I think that's the problem that you guys have.
Exactly,
Someone is
100%.
sitting in some government office trying to solve a township economy issues. People who've never been in business themselves. When people like you say, I'm available to help, you are told, no, we got this. Just wait for the decisions that we make. And then you start fighting about some of these solutions that they've come up with, and they say, no, this is it, you gotta live with it. Because, if you look at the conditions that they came up with, these are some of the issues I was canvassing on my radio show to say, in the township, if you say to somebody they must bring a proof of ownership of the house where they are going to operate as
Oh, the
as a
title
shop,
deed.
a title deed, you are creating a problem because you are dividing the family. Because this is a house that belongs to the gogo. Now, as a grandchild, you want to run a spaza shop, you want a title deed. Your siblings will start saying, you want to take the house away from us.
100%. Basically, that's my
Why are
argument.
you looking for this
Once
thing?
you're there,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you are just there,
Yeah,
what if you are the most hated person in the family?
absolutely. So you are
Do you think
already
they'll say
creating
yes?
a stumbling block.
They will never say yes.
You'll never get a title deed.
Yeah.
Even if you were to get a title deed, Prapek, if you go to housing department and say, I'm looking for a title deed, that process on its own, you must wait in a queue, you must identify the person that process on its own is not an easy process. And then there is a deadline to say within 3 months you need a
building plan.
And I don't even know. Building plan for putting a container at the front portion of the house.
Oh, you've got the
what is
2-room,
that?
and then you've got the 2-room and the garage,
So-
and you've got business plan for that 2-room and garage.
It was not going to work in the first place. And then when you look at that 500 million rand structure, when some of us dug in, there's NEF involved, there's Department of Small Business involved, there's a municipality involved, right? People who are in the rural areas, they first must go to the councillor. Okay?
No, Induna.
No, before.
Yeah.
The councillor.
Yeah.
Then you must go to the Induna.
Yeah.
Right? And then you must get all of these documents, and then you must travel 100 kilometers to the nearest town of that jurisdiction in terms of the municipality. And. Come on. So that is why it failed, right? And then there are people who are bloodsuckers on the sidelines, whom we are told, no, these are people who are mentors. They will train you, they will mentor you. They are taking 10,000 rands from these funds that have been. Then when you look at the whole canvas, the people who actually made money out of this are these so-called people who are supposed to train people.
In your point, let's go back and look at
Now, that project on its own falls flat on its face. And if you ask me, I don't have money. But a project like that, 500 million rands is pocket change. And yet you still can't spend it.
That was my argument first, to say, yes, we appreciate the 500 million rand sponsorship fund, But when you look at the geographical portion of South Africa and people who are in the industry, 500 million rand, it's almost a drop in the ocean. That is why I was even calling for the private sector to say, let's also do, bring the private sector on board also to match the 500 million, so that at least if we start from 1 billion going up, then we'll be talking. That's the first point. But the second point, coming to your point exactly, look at the people who are in the informal settlements. There's no title deeds in informal settlements. What are you saying to those people? You're saying you don't, because if they don't tick the first box, meaning they're out of the way. You know what I mean? Now, that is why I was saying this thing was rushed because they were reacting on what happened after the kids died. They were supposed to call a imbizo or a summit on the challenges that sponsorship are facing. Then let them get the information from the people on the ground and look at all the challenges and craft or design a committee that will consist of all the people and the stakeholders. Then to say, let's have this committee that will then work on this project.
Together with the big industries as well. People that have the
retail shop, the bigger understanding and all that. But also to your point, my argument is, who sits in the board that decide where the money must go?
Yeah, well, if you don't know, can you imagine me? How do I know?
Sitting in that board, you know what I mean? And we as the people that are doing this thing on the ground, we're not even sitting in those decision-making, tables. That's where then the challenge is. Because at the end of the day is, they will not make the impact. This whole thing is not going to make impact as long as you leave the people who are directly affected by something that you want to come up with, that wants to craft a solution for. I often say, Tabiso, the challenges of the township, the solution lies within the township. The challenges of the business people in the township, it lies with the business people in the township.
Let's go back now, because you and I have agreed there is no township economy to speak to in terms of ownership. And all we have is ourselves, market, and the people who have an interest in seeing the development. But for now, we have ourselves. You are in the policy space, which I think is very important, something that is very neglected in the small business and medium sector, very neglected policy. Most business people, small and medium, if you talk to them about policy, they would not point out to any policy that they know of, right? So let's try and take what you've done from a policy point of view and where we are in terms of the synergy. Because you said we are left with ourselves. Where are we right now?
When you look at policy, there's a number of these policies that I can, talk to, but I want to focus on one. But let me mention them so that at least we have an idea. We've got TEDA, which is the Township Economic Development Act, which I want us to focus on that one, because we were fully involved in that one. But you also have your transformation fund. You also have your TRAP, which is Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program.
Wonderful. Sounds good.
Sounds good, and then you have recently, they've also launched Mbali, which is for women. We can also talk about the COVID relief fund. There's many.
Let's talk about TEDA.
But I want us to focus on TEDA. I was just mentioning them so that you see the number of them. The one that we're also working on is the reserve sectors bill that we also want to make it a policy. Number one, we are advocating to make TEDA a national, policy. TEDA had 7 chapters that we were looking at. One of the chapters, it was talking about the participation of the township-based businesses. That is why there's an element in TEDA that says 40% of government spend on goods and services must be sourced from the township. Which that doesn't happen. It's zero.
Absolutely.
Nothing is happening.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would make an example with Para. To say, go to Para now, find out who's supplying Para with whatever services that they need. We are not there. You know what I mean? We're just talking realistically. So We made an attempt to meet with Bara, the chairperson, finding out what is happening. You know, there were a lot of boycotts, people trying to find out, people trying to force that we also need a piece of the pie. Because what we needed to do, we just needed to know the spend in Bara to say, what is the spend?
Must be a lot.
You understand?
Yeah.
But on who? And on which services and which products that, But at the end of the day, that's Bara, it's one of them. But the other one is Sun City.
The prison.
The prison. Remember Sun City, the original name was Deep Kloof Prison. It was not Sun City. They removed Deep Kloof because they didn't want Soweto to be part of this, so that we are not getting, what belongs. But the original name of Sun City is Deep Kloof. It's the Deep Kloof prison, which we also want to advocate to bring that name back to Deep Kloof. Because that was a strategy to be, to ring fence and not us participating in that. Then you look at what is their spend and who's providing services for that. Right? Now, basically, that's where the challenge is to say, now, instead of implementing the policy, you want to review. How do you review something that you've never tested in terms of the implementation? That was my argument. That is why I refuse to be part of the team that is reviewing the policy. Because I'm saying, why don't you give it a 10-year period? Let's implement whatever that is there, then review after.
Absolutely.
Now, they made a decision to review the policy without even bringing us back to say, guys, you played a huge role in making sure that this policy get gazetted, and then when it's supposed to be implemented. Now, that is why I always say, Brother Tabiso, our government and our officials, they always push the can down the road. There's this today, there's this tomorrow. Look at all those funds. Once you're focusing on this fund, the government introduce a new fund.
So let's go back to what do we need to do to reset, because that's your word, resetting. What do we do?
No, resetting, it's for us to make people understand this economy that we have, which is more than R1 trillion per annum. All right? We need to understand what we have in our midst. And then let's zoom in and say, okay, this is what we have. Let's look at what went wrong. Let's correct that. But let's create entrepreneurs now that understand exactly what needs to be happening. But you find a situation, a person gets into the business, but he can't even attend business platforms. Because at the end of the day, we're saying, our people, they don't even part of platforms that try to come up with solutions of their businesses. But I don't blame them, Tabiso, because remember, the very same organizations that were supposed to protect township economy are the ones that made it a point that township economy is not where it's supposed to be today. But remember, they were there fronting, with an idea that says we're talking on behalf of the people, but at the end of the day, they're talking on their behalf. When opportunities come, they're the ones on the front line without the people that they claim they are representing.
So I think we've covered a lot of ground. Let's now talk to business people or entrepreneurs or young people who are watching and aspiring to get into business, whether it's a hair salon, whether it's e-hailing, whether it's a spaza shop that they want to set up, whether it's an IT company that they're trying to build. What then becomes your word of encouragement to them and advice to them to say, in the midst of all of these conflicts and fights that we're trying to resolve, as people who've been at it for the longest of time, these are the do's and don'ts if you want to build a business, sustain it, and grow it?
What an interesting question. Because now the whole idea is where to from here? That's the question. Now, the first point is for us to acknowledge all the mistakes that happen. That's the first point. And agree to say, all of us who've let our guards down. This is why you see what is happening now. Right? That's the first point. The second point is then to say, let's understand this elephant in the room, which is called township and rural economy. So that when we say we're eating this elephant, let's apply the principle of eating an elephant, which is bit by bit. We then need to understand where is the low-lying area where we need to start. As I said earlier on, we need to start by understanding this elephant, how big this elephant is, and acknowledge that it's an economy that's worth more than R1 trillion per annum, right? And that is why I always say, we need to then start unpacking what is township economy and who is township economy. Because the businesses, the conglomerates and the big businesses and the corporate SA that you see or find in the township, they're not township economy. They're the big businesses operating in the township. Yeah. I often call them the biggest looters of the township economy. Why I'm calling them the biggest looters of the township economy? Because we are not part of the equity. Yeah. We are not part of the value chain. We're not part of the shelf spaces. Yeah. How many products that you find in this big conglomerate or big businesses that you find products that are produced and manufactured from the township? We are not in logistics. Now, meaning in other words, these people are not there to grow the township economy with us. They're just there to just make money and go. Yeah. Then you look at even their programs. There's no enterprise supply development. Yeah. There's no CSI programs that they're running, meaning their main goal is not to empower and develop the townships and the businesses in the township. Yeah. Meaning, in other words, I can simply say we're on our own. Yeah. Now, so what then happens? Just what do they do? Yeah. Yeah. Just to say whatever that we need, we do it on our own. That is why we're saying, we need to unpack township economy to say people they need to understand township economy is 60% formal and 40% informal. And you can't then want to push the narrative that says we need to formalize the informal. We need to professionalize the informal, but leave them as informal as they are, because that's our identity as the township. But you can't force everybody to formalize. You can't force everybody to register a company. But the narrative that government is pushing, no, in order for you to get funding, you need to register a company and all that. But they never ask the people that infiltrated our businesses to say, before you operate in the township, you must formalize, you must register and all that. But you find all those puzzle shops that are operated by illegal foreign nationals are not formalized. They're informal. Now, basically, we are now saying we need to correct those mistakes, but also we need to then aspire young people that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. For example, we need to make township and rural economy cool so that it attracts young people. What is it? Because let me make an example. If I claim to my daughter that I'm a businessman or I'm an entrepreneur, but I can't buy even a bread or can't take my child to a school, do you think my child will be interested in what I'm doing? No. If my child doesn't even see, that my father is now making money or is a true business person. But you need to also to lead by example. What do we have now? We have nothing. My brother, to tell you the honest, we have nothing. Yeah. But that is why we are saying it's a discussion that we need to talk about. But I can tell you, we don't own anything in the township.
So those that are into trying to build their businesses now, what's your advice to them as we round off this discussion?
It's very important, my brother. There are people that are seeing an opportunity. I'm encouraging them to not to give up. I'm encouraging them to do the research, understanding the elephant that they are trying to tackle or the space that they are trying to get into. They need to understand it, do proper research, align yourself with the like-minded people, at the end of the day, so that you are able to, when you start your business, you've got all the ducks in the row. You know exactly where to start, where to go. But remember, this whole concept of starting a business and then you'll see as it goes. That's where the challenge is. Because, case in point, a person will register a company today, tomorrow, and then he said, you want funding. How do you want government or private sector to fund you, yet you've never funded your business for the next 3 years. At least you need to fund your business for at least 3 to 5 years. Then build a track record so that when you start applying for the fund, you've got something to show. You can't start a business today and then tomorrow you want funding. Basically, we're saying, let's all start business. And also this thing of hustling. I don't believe this whole concept of hustling, because the reason why the township and rural economy is not growing, because people, they talk about hustling. And hustling is about hand to mouth.
Yeah.
And you can't build business with hand to mouth.
When you hustle, you take anything that comes along.
Exactly, and we need to focus and say, and also this whole concept of saying, you need to master the sector that you're in, or the industry that you're in, build repertoire before you can then talk about expanding. A person who wants to expand without even building, or without even building anything.
My biggest frustration with black business in the township is just professionalism.
Exactly. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, for me, that's the biggest. I mean, let me tell you, I walked into a store with beautiful displays of. They do carpentry. You do these things. So I go in, I inquire, and I say, look, I just need a quotation, for these cabinets. The lady says, no, let me call the owner. Call the owner, I've got a customer here, they just need a quotation. The owner says, no, angiko. Can't that person come tomorrow? And the lady says, can you come to... I'm like, I'm here now. All I need is a quotation. I mean, this is something that has to be there, like in many other shops. Why must I come tomorrow?
That's my
Then I walked out thinking, here, and I even said to her, even if I come back tomorrow, I get a quotation, I doubt if you will deliver on time.
Exactly.
If you can't produce a quotation... on the spot, then it's a problem. So, you walk out shaking your head to say, but what's going on here? What is going on here? Type of a thing. Then you've got a guy who runs a franchise, one of these retail shops. So, the retail from time to time has got a special, right? So, they would say coffee... we are cutting 25 rands from the coffee. Now you ask the ladies who are at the tills to say, hey man, where is coffee? I don't see coffee on your shelves. And they say, no. When specials are announced by the franchisor, the guy takes all of those items that are on sale to create an impression that, no, they were bought quickly because of the sale. And then when that period of sale is announced by the franchisor, then takes back, because to him, he's losing a lot of money. Now, you know what I mean? Now, you are crooking your own
business
customer.
And own business. You're crooking yourself, in fact.
Now, for me, those are some of the biggest. And even people that are helping, people always ask, why are Mozambicans, for instance, fixing our roofs and our taps? Because those guys, you say to them, come tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, they are there.
No, he's there after 6, not 7. He's there after 6.
BHEKI, ngisaseteksini, man, yazi incosi yami begula, and manje anginamali eteksi, bengicela ungibuyise. 11 o'clock, BHEKI says, hey, man, ngilambile, man, akuthengiswa amabhiya somewhere, yazi ukuthi ukuphumula kancane, but you know what I mean? So, for me, you end up saying, okay, let me go where my money and my business is respected.
It will be valued as well.
I don't know, but I'm speaking to you about lived experience. I'm not talking about things I heard from anybody else. And for me, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, to your point, it's exactly what, we are facing with. For example, the issue of customer care, customer service, the issue of pricing, the issue of understanding the whole ecosystem of running a business. For example, you can't tell me that you are a retail shop, but you don't have a quotation that you can, send within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But the system, but that is why, I always tell people and say, business is about systems.
Yeah.
If you don't build systems, you're not building a business. But at the end of the day, your business must run even if you're not there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that lady, instead of her giving you a code, he needs to call the boss, and the boss says, I'm not there.
Come
Yes,
tomorrow.
yes, it's clearly. The reason why he's called is because he's not in the business. Meaning, in other words, you're saying, if you're not in the business, your business can't run. Can you imagine how much money or how many clients he or she will lose through you?
Yeah.
But remember, business is all about referrals.
And I'm not going back.
Also, business is all about referrals.
Yeah.
If you get a service and you're happy with the service, then you're able to refer. But business is not about you promoting it, marketing it, but the biggest people that will market your
Or
business,
adapting to your excuses and challenges.
the people who will market your business
Yeah.
is the people that you gave the proper service, that are happy with the business, then they'll refer
Yeah.
other people to your
Yeah.
business because
Yeah.
there's a reference.
Yeah. I mean,
basically,
I
it's,
don't understand it.
Yeah.
Somebody displays a nice gate, metal gate.
Exactly.
Beautiful. You go there and you say, hey, this thing is nice. How much is it? They say, no, it's 8,000. You're like, you know what? I want it. Can you come to my house? Here's my address and all of that. And the guy says to you, no, why can't we go now? Because I'm not car. And you're thinking, okay, no, that's fine. But it's not my problem, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we go there, you do the measurements, and he says, no, this is how much this thing will cost you. You make a follow-up again, me.
You must take him back.
How are we going to do this thing? He says, yeah, no, the material is sold in Albertine. If you don't mind, we can go there. Now I must go to where he's supposed to get the material.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, your challenges of transport are now
becomes
my issues.
part of the client.
Now you must go get your friend who has a BHEKI. And now I must talk to the guy. I saw a gate. I want this gate. Can you give me this gate and I pay you? That transport and where you get the materials, where do I come from? Now what happens next? I agree you've showed me where the material is. I go and speak to the guy, what material, and say, man, here's a gate I want. The guy says, don't worry, I will make it from here. All you have to do is to come and pick it up when it's done.
Or will deliver.
Something which I expected from you
Yeah.
in the first place. Now you are losing a business. So for me, those are some of the things that I find quite frustrating about business, to be honest.
That is why it's very important, Tabiso, to talk truth to ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's do a naked truth.
Yeah.
Let's not beat about the bush and sugarcoat it and all that. We don't understand what is business. We don't. But to your point, can you imagine you decided to build gates?
Yeah.
Now, if a client comes, because you've advertised this gate, why then it becomes the client's duty now to produce the gate and deliver the gate? It's the same thing like with a caterer.
Yeah.
You do the code, he quotes you and all that.
Yeah.
Now he's supposed to deliver food at 1 o'clock. The client is supposed to eat.
Excuses.
Now there's excuses. I've got a tire burst. There's traffic. Where do I enter? Because I'm just a client. I want food at 1 o'clock.
Crying out
and
loud
then people they need to eat.
Yeah.
Then what happened? It's even worse because sometimes in these conferences, one of the speakers doesn't pitch. Instead of going for 1 o'clock for lunch, 12:30 we're done.
Yeah.
Now we need to wait for the food.
Absolutely.
You now late at 1,
Absolutely.
the food comes at 2. The whole project is messed up. Now, basically, those are the things that we need to really be honest to ourselves, to say, do we really understand what is business? And also, do we really understand that, do we have those qualities?
Yeah.
But another problem, Protaviso, is, do we have the qualities of being a business person or of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Because you can't just get into the space because you're bored or you've been retrenched or you won a lotto and all that, but you know nothing and you don't even have an interest of being in the space. Instead of taking your money and invest somewhere where it can, multiply by you sitting at home doing nothing. Why do you want to run something that you don't know? For example, is that the issue of the franchise. My brother, there's a rule of running a franchise. You need to follow those rules. You can't then want to run a franchise, then the next thing you want to do your own things. Because you're killing the whole concept.
Yeah.
That is why we're also encouraging people to say, look, rather than franchising, you can also franchise. Start a project, build it, and then instead of franchising, you can franchise it to somewhere else. You know what I mean? Basically, we're then saying, let's have a frank discussion and build the quality entrepreneurs and the quality business people.
BHEKI, thank you so much. Thanks for coming through. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
And, I hope people that are watching have learned something, one or two things. But I think this discussion has also laid to bear some of the challenges that we face or that you guys face in the sector as far as small business is concerned. As you said, it's up to us.
Yeah, I hope your frustration has been unpacked.
It has been.
Thank you so much.
It has been. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.